Welcome to the first chapter of our documentary series exploring 100 years of beloved musical masterpieces. Today we investigate a single melody that fundamentally dismantled centuries of tradition. Have you ever paused to consider how a single minimalist melody could dismantle centuries of musical tradition and pave the way for the modern ambient soundscape? This is a question of profound importance. We delve into the enigmatic life of Erik Satie and his revolutionary masterpiece, Gymnopédie No. a work that remains a foundational pillar of classical music 100 years after its birth. Join me as we explore the meticulous details, historical archives, and the archaeological traces of the man who chose silence in an age of loud and suffocating romanticism. Our journey begins now. In the late 19th century, the city of Paris was a crucible of artistic experimentation. Why did Erik Satie decide to reject the monumental emotionalism of his era? He lived in extreme poverty at the shadows of Montmartre. What possessed him to write something so transparent, so thin, and so profoundly still? He called himself a gymnopedist, a term referring to ancient Spartan rituals. This was a definitive declaration of war against the heavy orchestration of the conservatory. He sought a sound that could breathe without the heavy weight of academic tradition. Must music always demand our total focus, or can it exist simply as a presence? Satie was digging into the foundations of sound to reach the individual soul, while Eiffel built iron towers to reach the sky. Every single note was a choice. Every silence was a quiet rebellion. He stood in direct opposition to the musical establishment, seeking absolute simplicity in a world of complex and overwhelming noise. This was the birth of a minimalist vision that would take a century to be fully understood. Was he a madman or a prophet of the modern age? The answer lies in the silence between the chords of his 1888 masterpiece. Every measure reflects a man committed to his artistic truth regardless of the cost. He lived on bread and silence, yet he composed eternity. This is the provocative question that drives our exploration. We will peel back the layers of history. Let us look deeper into the mist of the 19th century to find the man behind the velvet suits. The investigation into Gymnopédie No. 1 continues. Erik Satie was born in the port town of Honfleur, Normandy, on May 17, 1866. This coastal town provided the first backdrop for his life and his quiet spirit. His early years were marked by a lack of traditional academic success and a growing distance from the expectations of his family and the local community. When he finally entered the Paris Conservatory, the experience was a series of documented and deeply embarrassing failures that would define his early career. His teachers described him as talentless and the laziest student in the school's entire history, showing no promise for any future in professional music. By 1887, he had found his true home in the bohemian cabarets of Montmartre, away from the strict and suffocating rules of the Parisian Academy. At Le Chat Noir, he worked alongside radical poets, shadow play artists, and intellectuals who valued eccentricity over academic rigor and traditional form. It was here that he began to refine the unique artistic voice that would define his minimalist masterpieces and his identity as a quiet but firm rebel. On February 27, 1888, he completed Gymnopédie No. 1, a work that sounded like an ancient soul in a modern and rapidly changing industrial world. The term itself was a linguistic invention for Satie, a mysterious label for a music that defied all contemporary definitions of genre and expectation. This historical context is vital. It was a time of immense industrial growth, yet Satie's music looked backward to a crystalline and mythical antiquity. He was a man of only 21 years when he composed this, yet the music possesses a timeless dignity and a sense of ancient, universal sorrow. The publication in 1888 marked a definitive split from his past and the academic rigor that sought to stifle his creative and independent spirit. We can see the influence of his Norman upbringing in the clarity and the saltiness of his early harmonic choices. He was always a man of the sky. He was the first to realize that beauty does not need to be loud to be powerful. The archives of Le Chat Noir reveal a man who was always alone. This foundation of rebellion and bohemian freedom allowed him to strike the first chord of a new musical era. Every failure was a step forward. The primary problem Satie faced was the total and suffocating dominance of Richard Wagner's musical standard in the late 19th century landscape. In 1888, Wagnerian total art was the absolute standard across Europe, loud, emotional, and overwhelming for the listener's every sense and thought. Satie found this grandiosity repulsive and sought a French music without the heavy sauce of German Romanticism that dominated the grand halls. If Wagner was a tsunami of sound, Gymnopédie No. 1 was a single perfect drop of water hitting a still pond in the dead of a Parisian night. The critics of the time were completely baffled by its lack of development and traditional resolution. It simply refused to follow the established rules. Satie lived in near-total poverty at 6 Rue Courtauld, walking miles across Paris at night to compose in his head while the rest of the city slept. He even joined the mystical Rose Croix Society, further isolating himself from the mainstream while refining his minimalist manifesto in the shadows. This work stood as a silent sentinel against the industrial noise of the 19th century. Every detail reveals a man committed to his minimalist truth. His rebellion through silence was the most radical act of his time, challenging the very definition of what art should be in a modern world. He was a man out of time, fighting a battle against the giants of his day with nothing but a few thin cords and his own profound conviction. We must recognize the courage it took to be simple when everyone else was being loud. His poverty was his armor in the war against the tide. This period was marked by his velvet gentleman era, where he wore one of 7 identical gray velvet suits every single day for years on end. The archaeological record of his life shows a man of extreme order and extreme poverty. This was the laboratory of the modern ambient movement. We are the beneficiaries of his lonely walk across the bridges of the Seine. This is the truth of the Satie problem and his ultimate triumph. He did not fight with sound, he fought with the absence of it. Every day he walked the same path, thinking the same revolutionary thoughts. Let us perform a detailed and archaeological autopsy of the music itself. Written in 3/4 time, Gymnopédie No. 1 lacks the waltz's traditional drive. It instead uses a slow, swaying motion between 2 unresolved chords that define the piece's floating sensation and unique atmosphere. In classical music theory, a 7th chord must resolve to a tonic. However, Satie refuses this resolution with a firm and quiet confidence. He leaves the listener in a state of perpetual suspension, a musical space where time seems to slow down and eventually stop altogether. The melody, which enters in the 4th measure, is almost modal, evoking the sound of ancient Greek hymns from a long-forgotten past. Satie's use of space is archaeological. Every single note is a precious artifact, placed with extreme care in a vast vacuum of silence. The name suggests ancient Spartan rituals of naked dancers, which Satie successfully translates into a visual and auditory stillness for the mind. We see this stillness reflected in the marble statues of the past, standing silent and dignified amidst the noise of the contemporary museum. Scientifically, the 60 beats per minute tempo aligns perfectly with the human resting heart rate, creating a profound biological resonance. This resonance is part of why the piece feels so calming, yet its underlying harmonic tension keeps the human mind awake and engaged. We must look at the mathematical precision Satie applied to the symmetry between the 3 pieces in the set. Every silence is as important as every note. He created an architecture of sound that was entirely unprecedented, revealing the skeletal beauty of the sound without any decorative flourish. The piece functions as a musical archaeological site where the ruins remain beautiful precisely because they are incomplete and open to the soul. Every measure is a testament to the power of artistic conviction over academic tradition. It is a work of profound and calculated structuralism. Satie was an architect of the soul, building a temple of sound that required no heavy stones. The mathematical relationship remains eternal. Satie's legacy was rediscovered by John Cage in the mid-20th century as a vital precursor to the use of silence and chants in composition. He saw in Satie a kindred spirit who understood that the absence of sound could be as powerful as the presence of a full symphony orchestra. Brian Eno's invention of ambient music in the 1970s is a direct and documented descendant of Satie's concept of furniture music. No sought a music that could be as ignorable as it is interesting, a concept Satie had first articulated at Le Chat Noir nearly a century earlier. This shift from narrative to atmosphere changed the way we interact with sound in our daily lives, making music a part of the physical space. Today, Gymnopédie No. is one of the most streamed and recognized classical pieces in human history, bridging the gap between centuries. It is found in countless film soundtracks, yoga studios, meditation apps, and sleep playlists across every continent on the globe. From the neon streets of Tokyo to the busy avenues of New York, Satie's melody provides a refuge of calm in the midst of the urban chaos. It is a universal language that speaks to the shared human need for interiority and reflection in an increasingly complex and overwhelming world. In the stillness of the modern library, we find the archaeological preservation of his ideas, ensuring they remain vital for the next 100 years. The digital map of our culture is lit up by the streams of Satie's influence, connecting major cities through a shared auditory experience. This connection transcends cultural boundaries, proving that the minimalist path is one that all of humanity can follow and find peace within. Its accessibility is its greatest strength, often being one of the first pieces a young student learns on the piano to master touch and tone. This living legacy continues to inspire new generations of musicians and thinkers to embrace the power of the minimalist path over complexity. He successfully convinced the entire world that stillness is not empty, but full of profound meaning and dignity for every individual. As we reach the emotional climax of our long journey, we realize that Satie's music is not just a collection of notes on a page. It is a physical space. It is a spiritual space for the human soul to reside and breathe. The climax is not a loud explosion of sound, but a profound and silent realization within the heart. In the absolute stillness of Gymnopédie No. we find the dignity and the value of our own existence. It validates our universal need to be quiet and still. It invites us to simply be present in the eternal now. Satie's masterpiece teaches us that true revolutionary change often begins with a whisper, not a loud shout. It is the courage to be simple in a world that values nothing but the loud, the fast, and the complex. This is the peak of the Satie experience. We feel a monumental stillness echoing through a century of noise. Every measure of this documentary has led us to this singular point of clarity and peace. As we conclude this investigation, we must each make a personal decision. Will we let the world's noise drown us out, or find our own Gymnopédie? The choice is ours to make in the profound silence that Erik Satie provided. The decision is to embrace the stillness and carry it forward into our own lives. Let us honor the man who dared to speak softly in a century that never stopped shouting at the top of its lungs. The book of Satie is now closing for us. His music continues to play in the halls of our collective memory forever. This is the final climax of our historical journey. May you carry this piece with you. The investigation is complete. The truth is found in the silence. The world is waiting, but we are still. This is the climax. This is the decision. This is Satie. We have traveled through 100 years of beloved classics to witness the quiet power of Erik Satie. His vision remains as vital today as it was in 1888. I hope this deep dive into Gymnopédie No. has brought you a moment of profound peace and clarity. May this serenity follow you in all your paths. May your journey through life be filled with the same steady, hypnotic beauty that we find in this masterpiece. God bless you and your family. 구독과 좋아요를 눌러주세요. 감사합니다. Please remember to like and subscribe for more classical documentaries. Thank you very much for your time and attention today.